This episode is brought to you by the Canby Liquor Store. With their ever-growing selection of spirits, beers, and local wines, as well as some awesome gifts that you can't find anywhere else, they're so much more than your average liquor store. Find them in the Fred Meyer Shopping Center.
This episode is also brought to you by Oddmo's Pizza in Canby. Handmade, awesome pizza plus craft beer, wine, and cider delivered. Call them today at 503-263-8444.
Welcome to the Canby Now podcast.
Your source for news.
The threat of a possible teacher strike was avoided this week.
There's a new, irresistibly cute creature winning over fans, and its name is Scootaloo.
Sports.
It's like Lucy in the football. You want to kick a field goal, but they take it away from you.
We had to learn how to win.
Goal can't be in the last second of the game! And interesting conversations.
Because I'm one of the strongest girls ever, and I know that for a fact.
I just really enjoy writing gossip as if I was a bear.
With an old maid daughter that make the best moonshine in the coast.
And if it would have hit me in the face, I think I would have died. I really do.
I guarantee you would have died, man. Are you kidding me?
Preschool, I had threats of people killing my family. They wanted to kidnap me because they thought my mom and dad were abusing me. Things really need to change. There have been trans people murdered in the past few years. Hundreds of them. There have been people who have been harassing me at school no matter what bathroom I go to, and followed and watched as I go to the bathroom. This really needs to stop. Please. Let Trans Day visibility be allowed in our town.
That was the voice of 9-year-old Canby elementary student Lulu Wills, who was among a dozen members of the Canby Transgender Alliance to address Canby City Council and Mayor Brian Hodson on Wednesday night, saying it was needed to support and safeguard some of the most vulnerable people in our community. The CTA packed the City Council chambers to again request a proclamation for International Transgender Day of Visibility, which takes place on March 31st, from the mayor. The group formed last year in the wake of the original proclamation request, which Mayor Hodson denied. This decision, along with the community turmoil that followed, reverberated throughout the trans community, and not in a good way, according to CTA member Sarah Rodriguez. In the first part of her testimony Wednesday night, she suggested that Mayor Hodson's denial of the proclamation equated to, quote, denying the trans community existed as a valuable part of our city, end quote. She described the International Day of Visibility as a worldwide observation for raising awareness of the discrimination that trans people face every day.
Trans people are like any community, from 4-year-old preschoolers to youth at Canby schools to aging seniors. Trans people work in your grocery store, they deliver your packages, do your taxes, they care for your parents. Trans people are your neighbors and your coworkers. They live down the street and are members of your family. Trans people practice all faiths, participate in community groups, and have backyard barbecues. Trans people are a diverse community representing all racial, class, and ethnic backgrounds. Mayor Hodson, earlier this month at the State of the City address, you stated the time is coming that we will have to adjust to the new us. I say the time has come that we have to adjust to a new definition of us.
The mayor's denial last year was done privately, but was soon made public by several community members who spoke at the meeting in support of Hodson's decision. Dozens responded at the following meeting, many of them members or allies of Canby's LGBTQ community. The scene was alluded to in comments by another Canby resident, Da Goodman Greiner, Wednesday night.
While you may refuse to acknowledge us, I am here with my own proclamation. Every trans person has value. Our existence will not be erased, and any attempts to silence us will only increase visibility, both of your bigotry and our resilience. If you think we had a good showing today, just turn us down and we will spill into the lobby again.
Other comments came from a former resident, Jolie Schembert, who grew up in the First Baptist Church of Canby and was a student there. She told poignant stories from her adolescence, like the time a, quote, sweet old lady, quote, in church warned her not to work for Fred Meyer because, quote, they give a lot of money to homosexuals, end quote. She claimed she was taught to hate gays in her church community, which in her case meant being taught, quote, to hate myself.
Transgender people were invisible during that time in my community. They existed, of course. I existed, but you wouldn't know it. Trans people hadn't yet gained enough notice in conservative rural Christendom to be actively, vocally hated. So it took me a long time to figure out who I am, to embrace my whole self. And when I think about what a transgender day of visibility could have meant to me back then, the wasted years that it could have saved, it breaks my heart.
A transgender proclamation is just a gesture, she admitted, but not an empty gesture. It could be the difference between life and death for an isolated trans person, she said, and urged Canby to do better and be better. The incident last year revealed deep divides in the normally tight-knit community and was particularly visible on social media, where the atmosphere became so toxic the mayor addressed it publicly, imploring residents to meet, talk with, and listen to one another face-to-face. Ultimately, at the recommendation of a city council work group, Mayor Hodson made changes to the proclamation practice, a policy over which he has sole discretion. Among those changes, he announced he would no longer consider any proclamations that recognize groups based on race, sex, gender, age, religion, nation of origin, or sexual orientation. That would appear to preclude the proclamation the CTA requested Wednesday. But several members, as well as Councilor Sarah Spoon, expressed their disagreement with the mayor's policy, saying it discriminates against federally protected classes. Councilor Spoon also thanked the CTA for their group and their work in the community.
I want you to know that I'm happy that you're here. And I personally disagree with the current policy on proclamations. I think it identifies and excludes specifically protected classes. I can't change that. That's not in my power. But what I can do is keep working on it, and I can keep working with you. But most importantly, I want you to know that I hear you, I see you, I validate your experience, and I am so, so grateful that you're my neighbors.
Mayor Hodson thanked each speaker and afterwards expressed how much he appreciated them coming, not just on Wednesday, but on previous occasions as well. All groups and organizations have always been and always will be welcome at City Council meetings, Mayor Hodson said in a follow-up statement to the Canby Now podcast. Everyone is and has always been welcome at our meetings and in our town, Hodson concluded. His statement seemed to leave open the possibility of more changes coming to the exercise of proclamations in Canby. Decisions I make regarding proclamations are separate from the right to attend and speak at council meetings, he said. I continue to evaluate the importance and significance of continuing the mayor's tradition of proclamations, said Hodson. The Canby City Council voted to terminate City Administrator Scott McClure following an executive session Wednesday night, 6 days after placing him on paid leave and barely 4 months after he started the job. The councilor had gone into executive session under a provision of Oregon law to consider the dismissal or disciplining of, or to hear the complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. The statute also allows the discussion to take place in open session, but only if requested by the employee in question. McClure was included in the brief exec. When it was over, the council gavelled back into open session and voted 5-1 to dismiss the city administrator, with Councilor Tracy Hensley dissenting. No reason was given for the abrupt termination of the man they just hired months earlier. The council opted to exercise the no-cause clause of McClure's contract, Mayor Brian Hodson told the Canby Now podcast on Thursday. Because McClure was fired without cause, he will be eligible to receive 6 months' salary, $150,000 annually, and 6 months of health insurance. Had he been terminated for cause, he would not be entitled to severance. McClure was hired this summer following a months-long recruiting process. His appointment was announced in July, but just became official after the City Council approved his contract in September. He started with the City of Canby on October 7. He replaced Rick Robinson, who retired in October after having served as Canby's top administrator since 2014. McClure had previously served as the city administrator of Monmouth since 2007. Prior to that, he held the position of city manager for Coos Bay and Brush, Colorado. He was an analyst for the city of Gladstone from 1989 to 1996. This is not the first time McClure has been fired from a city manager position. In September 2006, the Coos Bay City Council voted 5-2 to let McClure go after only 23 months on the job. According to a story in the Register-Guard of Eugene, the council had evaluated McClure 6 times during his tenure, largely to try and iron out differences between the manager and the council. But they were unable to come to terms. We were unable to resolve it and felt it was time to terminate the situation, Mayor Joe Benetti told the RG. It's a very progressive city right now, and we want the manager to move in that direction. There are a lot of subdivisions and developers coming in, and we have to have someone that is willing to keep pace with that. That didn't seem to be the case with McClure. Then City Councilor Jeff McCowan said McClure, quote, wasn't a good fit for what we need here in Coos Bay, end quote. We just needed a more aggressive manager who could get the type of things done we need to get done, McCowan said. The city of Canby contracted a highly regarded executive search firm, Peckham & McKenney, to recruit and retain McClure last year. The firm's nationwide search attracted an initial pool of 54 applicants, later winnowed down to 2 finalists, McClure and then Harrisburg City Manager Brian Hodson, who accepted a position in Dallas after being passed over for the Canby job. Zyber said Thursday morning that she has spoken with Peckham & McKenney, and the firm will conduct a new recruitment process for the city at no additional charge, except direct expenses. Mayor Hodson said he expects the council to discuss appointing an interim administrator at their next meeting in March. Right now, we are treating it like our city manager is out of office. And when that happens, the day-to-day pieces fall to Amanda Zyber, Hodson said. It was a powerful and moving occasion outside the Canby Adult Center and in the Ackerman Gym Saturday morning as the Canby Aurora VFW Post observed the 75th anniversary of the battle and flag raising at Iwo Jima. It was one of the bloodiest battles of World War II, particularly for the U.S. Marine Corps, which lost almost 7,000 men in 36 days of fierce fighting. Several surviving veterans of the battle were in attendance, and, as their usual custom, they sprinkled packets of black sand from the island on the rock at the Canby Adult Center that is dedicated to those who fought at Iwo Jima. The veterans, all of whom are in their mid to late 90s or older, were escorted by members of the Lewis and Clark Young Marines, a military-affiliated youth organization open to young men and women ages 8 to 18. The Young Marines wore period-accurate uniforms and helmets and later reenacted the iconic flag raising atop Mount Suribachi, perhaps the most famous photographs in U.S. military history. The ceremony also featured remarks by VFW 6057 Commander Martin Lackner, chaplains Mike Laderville, and John Morrell. Mayor Brian Hodson, former Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs Jim Willis, and Marine Staff Sergeant Thomas A. Gatton II. Raising of the flag was by the 6th Engineer Support Battalion. Taps were played by CHS alumni Danny Hunt and Paul Carlson. After the ceremony, a large group that had turned out from the Marine Corps Recruit Depot stayed behind to hear from Robin C. Barrett, a U.S. Marine paratrooper and American hero who fought in the Battle of Iwo Jima. For photos, check out the Canby Now podcast pages on Facebook and Instagram. The Clackamas County Sheriff's Office detectives made 2 arrests last week in the 11-year-old cold case involving the murder of 28-year-old Joseph Patrick Haley, who was found dead in his apartment in Oak Grove on March 20, 2009. The CCSO says a new break in the case finally came in the fall of 2018. Over the next 16 months, detectives from Homicide and Violent Crimes, along with the Cold Case Unit and Interagency Task Force, worked these new leads and ultimately developed and identified 2 suspects: Kevin Schwartz, 34, of Gresham, and George Robbins, 38, of Portland. Detectives submitted a criminal case to the Clackamas County District Attorney's Office for review. The case was presented to a grand jury and indictments were obtained against Schwartz and Robbins. On Wednesday, February 19, detectives arrested both men and Schwartz was charged with first-degree murder and Robbins for second-degree murder. Both were booked at the Clackamas County Jail without bail. They were arraigned at the Clackamas County Courthouse this afternoon, Thursday, and are currently being held without bail. In a press release announcing the long-awaited arrests, Sheriff's Office Detectives Sergeant Jesse Ashby said, "I am extremely proud of all the investigators' work on this case. As a team, we hope these arrests bring a measure of closure to Joseph Haley's family." According to the information from the Sheriff's Office in 2009, Haley was fatally shot in his home at Willow Creek, located just south of Milwaukee. He lived in the apartment with 2 roommates, who were present at the time of the shooting and were unhurt. His roommates told investigators that 2 armed male subjects came to the front door of the apartment and barged their way in. Seconds later, Haley was shot and killed by one of the armed intruders. The 2 suspects immediately fled the scene. Court records show Robbins had previously been arrested on charges of assault, unlawful use of a weapon, and robbery. Schwartz had been arrested in the past on charges of forgery, assault, and harassment. Canby Now Sports is brought to you by Reif & Hunziker, PC. When you need an attorney, turn to the firm Canby has trusted for over 50 years. Call them today at 503-266-3456. Lots of action from the Canby sports scene this week as the winter seasons for most teams are drawing to a close. The 6A State Swimming Championships were held this weekend, and the Cougs sent a boatload of athletes to compete. Canby's much-lauded 200 girls medley relay team of Marin Chard, Avery Kanonen, Kylie Hester, and Allison Yancey finished 6th in the finals, tying their school record with a blistering time of 1 minute, 50.74 seconds. Chard and Kanonen also qualified and competed in several individual events this weekend. Kanonen qualified for the finals in the 100 fly and shaved 2 seconds off her personal best in the individual 200 medley. Impressive showing for the freshman with a very bright future ahead of her. Meanwhile, the boys relay team spent all weekend besting expectations. Seeded last in the prelims, the 400 freestyle relay team of Hunter and Connor Doricio, Jordan Spencer, and Thomas Diggles beat 3 teams and cut off almost 3 seconds of their seed time. While the 200 medley of Spencer, Diggles, Connor Doricio, and Jack Hayhurst beat 2 teams and shaved a second off their last time. Up and down all season, the boys and girls basketball teams were both in the midst of a tough final stretch as the playoff picture crystallizes. 4 games last week and 4 losses against 3 Rivers League powerhouses West Lynn and Tualatin. The boys, 11-12 on the season and ranked 30th in the state, are hoping to hang on to a playoff berth. Their final regular season matchup will not be an easy one. They face 6th-ranked Lake Oswego at home at 7 p.m. Wednesday. The Lakers are 14-8 this year, but have not yet lost a single Three Rivers League match. Ranked 14th, the girls have little chance of falling out of the playoff picture, but may lose their chance at hosting their postseason opener without a win or two in their final games. Fortunately, both games are winnable, exactly the opposite of their male counterparts. The Lake Oswego girls team has not won a league matchup this year. The girls will wrap their season up at home against St. Mary's Academy on Friday. The Blues and Cougars are neck and neck in the state rankings this year, but Canby took their first contest 49-41. The Canby Cougar dance team left it all out on the floor this weekend at Mount Hood and Friends dance competition at Park Road High School, coming away with a first place in the show division. We competed with so many talented teams and creative shows, said head dance coach Jen Chafee. Congrats to everyone on a great day. Looking ahead to the future a little bit, the 2020 Canby High School football schedule was just released and offers some intriguing matchups. Most of the Cougars' opponents were already known from the new 5A special district that was formulated to accommodate Canby, including North Salem, St. Helens, McKay, Hillsborough, Scappoose, Forest Grove, and Wilsonville. But that still left 2 blank spots on the schedule, until now. We can tell you now that Canby's non-league opponents this year will likely be 2 playoff teams, the Dallas Dragons and West Albany Bulldogs. It's an off year for home games with only 4 contests scheduled at the Cougar Stadium: Dallas, St. Helens, Scappoose, and Forest Grove. The regular season wraps with a road match versus new league rival Wilsonville. West Albany should be a big test, said head coach Jimmy Joyce. They're a 5A powerhouse and should be top 5, and the matchup with Wilsonville at the end will be huge. They'll probably be ranked number 1 preseason. The schedule also sheds some clarity on the 2021 season, where all matchups will be the same, but with the home and away games teams reversed.
The Canby Now podcast is brought to you in part by DirectLink, where technology meets tradition. Canby's longest-running and most innovative communications provider for over 116 years, DirectLink has worked hard to bring quality services to the area at affordable prices. From establishing phone lines in the early 1900s to being the first gigabit internet speed provider in Oregon, DirectLink paves the way for new technology so our neighbors can stay connected. Visit them online at directlink.coop to learn more about their communications services and community activities.
We'd like to extend our undying gratitude to Canby Now Plus member Simon Springall. We rely on your monthly contributions to continue to do this work that we love. To find out how you can become one of the coolest people in the world, one of our supporters on Patreon, visit cambynowpod.com/plus.
Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Little shop of horrors, little shop of terrors, call the cop. Little shop of horrors, no, no. Little shop of horrors, bop, shabop. Little shop of terror, watch them drop. Little shop of horrors, no, no. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's not even that hard.
It's because I'm like this, trying to fit underneath the table while you're walking behind me.
Yeah, I guess. That's why I'm the one under the table.
I know.
You are posing like you are in a photo, like a basketball team,
True.
and you're in front
the
with
sports ball.
Yeah, exactly. Like the ball.
Yes.
Okay, well, we are here at Canby High School doing one of our favorite things, catching up with the Canby High School crazy theater kids that are already dancing, and they can't see you, so I'm just describing what you're doing. But why don't you take a minute and just introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Sean Shevland. I'm portraying Seymour in our Little Shop of Horrors. I've been doing theater for a pretty long time now. I've been doing shows at Canby High School since my sophomore year, and I'm a senior now. But I also did Allegro musical theater when I was in elementary school and middle school. Yeah, I love choir, I love singing, love dancing. It's my thing.
Well, it seems it's very hard to get to draw you out. I'm just like talking with teenagers usually like trying to get like pulling teeth, and that was awesome. Thank you, Sean, for that that bio.
Hi, my name is Sarah Link. I'm the student tech director at Canby High School. I also am the scenic director for this show, so I designed all of the sets and I'm in charge of construction for it. I am also helping with the puppeteering of Audrey 2.
Yes. And you, Sarah, were on the show before, right? I think for like the very first time we did this. Was it Curtains?
I don't remember that far back.
I don't remember either.
I did help with the Halloween podcast in the reading of the stories.
Maybe that was it.
Hi, I'm Cadence Moore, and I'm playing Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors. And I've been doing theater for a pretty long time. All of high school, I've been doing theater. I really like to do musicals. They're really fun. And I do choir too. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Tanner Bedortha. I am a co-prop master and co-puppeteer for Little Shop of Horrors.
And Tanner and Cadence also making a return appearance on the Canby Now podcast from our almost main episode. I don't have any big revelations like I did this. I didn't go to high school with the guy who wrote this one, so sorry. And late addition here.
Axel Strohschein. I am the theater director here at Canby High School. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say.
Everyone else has been saying a lot. So.
Oh, okay. I gotta show up. Okay.
Tell us a little about your background.
Yeah. So this is my first year teaching in Canby. It's also my first year being a full-fledged teacher. I got my master's degree in theater teaching at University of Portland, and I have a bachelor's in theater arts from Portland State University. I've been doing theater since I was in the 5th grade, all through high school and everything, and moving on up. And now it's awesome to be the person that I looked up to when I was in high school, and I get to be that person for other students now.
What do you think of our kids here in Canby?
They are the most dedicated kids that I have ever been a part of. I have been coaching for about 7 years now, and these group of kids are the most self-motivated, self-disciplined, and dedicated students that I've ever had.
Aren't they amazing?
They're awesome.
Yeah. I always say, like, this is my favorite thing to do, and it's not a lie. You guys are awesome. So tell me a little bit more about the show. It's coming up, debuting here at the end of the month, Little Shop of Horrors. Who wants to start?
I guess I'll start. I don't know how much to say without like giving too much away, but basically there's a plant and it's...
Yeah, no spoilers, Cadence. We ran into trouble with that before.
Oh, goodness. There's a plant and its name's Audrey 2. And...
It's man-eating.
Yeah.
It eats people.
It's a mean green mother from outer space,
It
from what I've heard.
It is. The stage version, if you have seen the movie that we all kind of grew up on, if you know the movie...
us old guys.
The stage version's a little different. There's new quirks. There's some new fun things to be had. So if you've seen the movie, don't think that you've seen the stage version.
Yeah, different ending, right? I just learned that.
Little bit. I mean, the ending, they changed the movie's ending like 3 times. There's 3 possible endings. But this ending is similar, but it was the one that they outtook. So.
Okay, I'm very confused. But because I didn't realize there was different endings. Know the movie, love the movie. Was just doing some research before this interview and reading up on the stage version. I was like, oh, they changed the ending. That's interesting. And then I read the ending. I was like, oh my gosh, it's horrible.
Yep, sure.
No wonder they changed it.
Yep.
Come see the show.
Find out what the Canby version of it is like. Okay, well, one big aspect of this show is obviously the plant and how that is brought to life. So that's why we have Sarah and Tanner in here to tell us a little about it. Tanner, he's pointing at Sarah. Sarah, why don't you start?
All right, so the plant, again, no spoilers too much, but it does grow as a plant does. So there's 4 different stages of it, and each of them are puppets of some type, bigger in size each time. So it goes from one being little itty bitty small handheld to bigger and bigger and bigger, where it's about 7 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's got to be Tanner inside of that one.
Well, that's the thing. We're not inside of it. We're behind it. And there's levers and things to move. So Tanner gets all of the high stuff while I help make sure we're on script and on the right track.
Yeah.
And
I
anything.
think Tanner might have to bend down a little bit for 7 feet tall. He's pretty tall.
The lever goes about 12 foot. So the lever is about 12 feet high. The puppet itself is about 7 feet high.
What are these things, these huge contraptions made out of?
Everything. There's metal, there's wood, a lot of fabric, styrofoam.
A lot of welding.
Yeah. a lot of
Really?
welding,
Wow.
Especially for the handles and stuff like that. The structure of it is mainly wood and then covered with foam and fabric.
How do you guys learn how to do this kind of stuff?
Luckily, we were so fortunate to have been able to borrow these puppets from past theater productions. We actually didn't make any of these plans. So, I mean, we did add some creative decoration to most of them. But in regards to the actual contraptions themselves, we didn't really make any of them.
Cool. The story itself I wanted to ask about as well. What was kind of the decision to try this play or to pick this one? I understand it's the first time in Canby. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh, that's a lot of people dying that way. High school kids. But then I remember like the movie, I think I saw for the first time when I was in middle school and like loved it. So,
Right.
yeah.
So I was actually a part of this production when I was a sophomore in high school, and it was one of my favorite shows. I was just one of the cameo characters, and it was still, to this day, one of my favorite productions because of how much the ensemble gets together and has fun with the show. And we all have a little bit of a dark side to us, whether we like to admit it or not. And we discussed it and we went back and forth, the creative team and myself, of should we do the show? Should we not do the show? And then it boiled down to what is going to be best for the students. And we really realized for this department, for these awesome focusing in on the seniors, this was the perfect show to showcase all of the talent that they had to offer, without having to go over the top, without pushing the limits too far, but just pushing them enough where they get a new experience, something that Canby hasn't seen before, and something that the students haven't done before is why it was so important for me to choose this show for them, because it's a rock musical. You know, they're trained amazingly on choir music, and this show we've like, no, you can't sing it that way. No, you can't act it that way. Break that mold. And so it's really rounding these actors to be a better professional when they step outside of high school.
Yes. Also, to add to that, like, I was unsure at first because I was like, oh, there's not that many people in the show. But like, the more like we added people, like it's all come together and people still like are involved, and like it's such a fun show to do. Like the music like gets stuck in your head for days. And everyone's involved, and it's like really cool just to see, like, even though like it maybe not like the biggest parts, like everyone does have a part and they get to like add their own thing to it. So it's cool.
What has the process been like for you guys, you actors, as far as learning the story and that kind of process?
Well, when I first found out that I had the lead in the show, I was...
Rick Moranis.
Yeah. Yes. I was actually on a choir field trip and I was like pretty distraught because I don't know if I really wanted, like, I don't know if I deserved such a big role. So I was a little bit distraught and I didn't really get into it for a while because I was just like, gosh, what a big role. And then I finally did. And it took me actually a really long time to get into the actual story and the whole show because like there are those songs, you know, those scenes, but then I only had seen it once after I knew that I had the role. And then when we first got into like the whole development process, I was like, oh my gosh, that happens? Yeah. It's like, it's really crazy. Yeah.
Seymour, he's an interesting character, right? He's just a good person where like everything that can possibly go wrong, like goes wrong.
I know. He's like the perfect anti-hero because like he's just such a lovable guy, but the things he does, you know, are just not the best, but you can't help but love him, you know?
Well, love makes people do crazy things. So. And Audrey over here, what's that character reveal to you, or what has your experience been like?
This is like one of the craziest characters I've ever played. Like, and I've played like the ugly stepsister in Cinderella. I played a lot of like more muted characters, so this one's very like out there and like crazy and definitely like weird, but like I definitely see myself in her, which it took me a while. I was like, oh, like poor Audrey, like you kind of like pity her, like when you watch the movie and you're like oh gosh, like, but the more I've gotten to know the character, like the more I've fallen in love with just like how kind she is to people and like how like self-sacrificing she is. And I've just fallen in love with like the way that she treats other people, and it's inspiring to me, even though she may seem like kind of dim-witted, like she is very strong in the way that she treats people. So
interesting character as well, because obviously Seymour is the protagonist, more the main character, but you don't have basically anything that happens without Audrey. She's kind of the instigator of the story.
Kind of, yeah. I definitely, she's
and the killer plant from outer space.
Well, there's that too.
There is that aspect.
I just think like the love relationship between like Seymour and her like is like really funny, because they're definitely like weird and they're both like awkward, but like I don't know, they like it's good. Like the audience falls in love with it. Like I watched the movie and I was like, oh, that's actually like so cute, like and it's like unexpected.
Kicking it back to the teacher, I always like to kind of ask, is there anything that you either have seen the kids learning through this, or that you hope kind of the students take from this? Because obviously fun is a big part of it. Like you mentioned, kind of development as an actor or a stage crew or you know, whatever, singer, whatever aspect they are fulfilling. But also, you know, art can teach us lessons and teach us things. So there are things that you feel like or hope that would be passed on to the cast and crew through this process.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back, just the vocal training and the acting training is a huge one for my actors, I think. Just getting them out of their shells and out of the box of what they've been trained on before, and you know, broadening their horizons that way. Another element as far as the technical side goes, I've had multiple students be like, this set is what we've always dreamed about. This set is something that we are learning. We're like going together, Sarah and myself, and our technical director, Jared, going with students and teaching how to do different painting techniques, how to make a 2-story building, making sure that these students have this awesome set.
I think Sarah just got a headache.
I mean, just thinking about it. It's like this larger than life show, and so we wanted to make sure that the students got this larger than life set to go along with it, which has just been something that we haven't done in the past, and so it's been a really awesome experience seeing that. As far as like a life lesson or some hope for not only the crew and the cast, but for the community as well. For this particular production, we're outreaching with Clackamas Women's Services to support and show that survivors of domestic violence, abuse, and trauma, that they deserve to be loved and that they are strong characters, going back to what Cadence was just talking about. With that character, we pity her at first, but what we want everyone to realize is that out of everyone in the show, Audrey is the strongest of all, and she does come from a rather poor background. She's dealt with a lot in her life, and she doesn't let that stop her from being the person who still spreads love, understanding, and caring for other people.
And, you know, don't feed the plant.
Well, and don't feed the plant. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of kind of the larger than life and the big production, I understand, I don't know how much you guys can say, but I understand there's kind of some fun surprises in this show as well. Can you tell us anything or tease anything?
Yeah, so we are going to have some guest artists come in. Every night will be a new Canby celebrity of some sort that will have a walk-on cameo role.
So, never mind.
Hey, there you go. And so you can look out, for the listeners, you guys can look out to seeing who the cameo is for your evening or your matinee performance. It's a fun little way to get some community members here and see some people who may not be on the stage feel how awkward it can be to be on the stage.
Or they could just come to all the shows and see all the Canby celebrities.
Absolutely.
Just putting that out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Collect them all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this last time I was here as well, but the theater department is kind of walking through this process of requesting a full-time theater teacher, which has it ever had one, or it was just cut, or is it something that is...
Long ago.
Okay. In a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's been a long time, and
really
basically, we've done probably 4 or 5 of these now. It's usually a different director was here because it was just whoever could, and a labor of love, and that's what you're doing right now.
Right.
So, but I know you students would really love and need a full-time theater teacher and maybe some actual classes. Tell me about that.
So I am also co-president of the theater troupe, and I've been working a lot on just advocating for theater classes. We've gone to community meetings where we've talked to school board members and saying that this is what we really want, especially with the Student Success Act. There's a more push of money coming into the school, and with that money, we could really use it to afford classes and such things. So money shouldn't be an excuse. As well as just it has such a big effect on the community. Having theater classes will help grow our program, will help us be more successful in competitions, and just create more of a community for those who feel left out. It's such a welcoming community, theater always is. And I know we've been also focusing more on mental health in the school and trying to improve that. And theater is one thing that can definitely help with mental health and just helping people feel more loved and accepted.
Going off of what Caden said, we had a theater class 3 years ago, my freshman year. And honestly, that class was one of the best classes I had as an incoming freshman, not knowing what high school was going to be like. It was just a nice place to come, learn something new, have fun with my friends that were there, and it really helped with stress and everything.
I think that, first of all, Cadence, like you mentioned, the advocacy that you guys are doing. I've heard, I've listened to the meetings and stuff as well, and I've heard that that's making an impact and is appreciated. So I appreciate you guys doing that, because I know that can be hard to stand up in front of a bunch of grown-ups and, talk about give us money. But that it means something. It really does. And you guys have been doing a great job with that.
Thank you.
I think that when you have something, in EXO, we've been talking about it, that these kids work so hard, and the volunteer hours that you and the other adults and parents put in is amazing, but that there's burnout, and it's just not always sustainable, and it would be such a shame to lose, what has happened here and what is happening here through this program because it didn't have the funding to sustain it. So, okay, well, now that we got that out of the way, back to the show. So the dates are going to be, it opens February 28th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Does anybody have them memorized?
February 28th, 29th, and March 6th and 7th.
Can get tickets at the door. Is that the only place?
So the tickets are offered at the door. It's going to be $12 for adults, $10 for any student that's K through 12. Any CHS staff or student can get in for free if they have their ASB card.
Obviously, it's just an amazing show. It'll be a fun night. But if you do believe in and want to support the things that we've been talking about, come fill this auditorium. Just one night. That would be a really big sign to the school board and to the community that this matters to us. So before we go, one last thing. I want to hear from everybody what you're most excited about. I'm starting with Tanner because he hasn't talked hardly at all.
Okay. I'm most excited for the puppets and to hear my friend Meridian sing.
Cool. Yeah. She's the plant, right? Yeah, she's already.
I'm most excited for the fun costumes. I get to wear a blonde wig, and that's definitely new. And also just the accent, yeah, her voice is funny, but I'm gonna wait to have people come see the show to hear it.
Okay, you're not gonna sample it for us right now. Nope. Okay.
I think I'm excited for the community to see all the hard work that our students and our parents have put into this. This year for the show, we are doing so many new things. We're having an entire raffle that's happening in the lobby. We're making sure that the students have the advocacy for themselves. We're advocating for other community groups. So I'm really excited for all that community outreach and to make sure that the community feels like they are also a part of this small, little, fun little group of kids, that we're all kind of one and we're all in this together.
I'm honestly so excited to see how all of our hard work and all of the designs that we've made for the sets come out, and all of the stress and work that's gone into it, how I know it'll all be perfect, but I'm just excited to get to that ending point and for everyone else to see that too.
Well, speaking of teasing little bits, I'm honestly, I'm a dancer at heart, and I've never had a role where I do partner dancing. And in this show, there's one scene that is very fun to do, I'd say. Me and my best friend, we have a really intense dance. I'm not going to spoil the genre of the dance. It's really out there. It's like out of nowhere. It's really fun though, and I think the people are going to get a kick out of it.
Wow. Yeah, everyone's laughing. That is funny. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. I'm excited about you. Cadence and Sean are great, I'm sure, but I'm really excited to see this 7-foot tall puppet.
Yes, absolutely.
Here it comes, baby. Tell the bombs, baby. Oh, no. Oh, hit the dirt, baby. Red alert, baby. Oh, no. Oh, no. Alley-oop, shoot, all out the stoop, child, I'm warning you. Look out, look out, look out, look out. Run away, hey, run away, pay if you fail, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look around, down, something's gone down the street for you. You betcha, you betcha, you betcha, but you betcha. Best believe it, something's gonna get ya. You betcha, better watch your back and your tail. Yeah, 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 yeah. I come. Little shop of horrors, bop, shabop. You'll never stop the terror, little shop of horrors. No, oh, no, no, oh, no, no, oh, no, no.
I'm here with Derek Hill at Advantage Mortgage, and you had some advice you were wanting to put out there to prospective home buyers.
Yeah, it's so crazy out there right now. The housing market is just blazing fast, especially in the first-time home buyer range of prices.
Oh, cool.
So it's imperative that you find out all the ins and outs, how much can you afford, what's your payment range that you want to be in, what type of loan program you're qualified for, because there's a lot of no money down loan programs that are available, but they really might not be best for you. In my experience, those loans have an increased payment that if they had a little bit of money down, they wouldn't need. But the great thing about Canby is it's eligible for the USDA loan program, which is a no money down loan. But my point is it's just super important to get it figured out before you start looking, because I've seen customers go find the house they love, and they call me and they're like, let's go. Right. And then by the time we get everything dialed in, which can be in 4 hours, that house is gone.
Yeah.
And so it's just way better. So I just want to make sure that consumers know, give us a call. Just give us, let's meet, let's talk about it, let's get everything dialed in so that you know exactly what you're up against, and then you're ready. You can make that offer and kaflooey, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And people can find you on your website or just give you a call?
Yeah, they can go to findtheadvantage.com or call 266-5800, obviously 503 area code. And we'd love to chit-chat, and we have, 8 or 9 different loan officers here in the Canby office that would love to sit down with somebody and work with them.
Cool. Thanks, Derek.
Derek Hill, NMLS number 50183, Advantage Mortgage, NMLS number 177059, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Joining us on the line now is Lieutenant Brian Jensen with the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant, we had fairly firm plans to have you on the podcast some months ago when you were Sergeant Jensen and PIO for the Sheriff's Office, and just couldn't quite get the scheduling right, and then you went and got yourself promoted.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to it.
Well,
and I'm glad that we're able to make it work this time.
Yeah. I thought that I'd missed my window, but here you are. So,
man, you just give me the invite, and I will come on anytime you want.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You have recently announced your candidacy for Clackamas County Sheriff.
Yeah. I went down Tuesday and filed my paperwork with the county, and I'm really excited, and quite frankly, I'm a little nervous too. But
sure.
I never run for political office, and I just felt that the timing was right. The experience is under my belt, and I'm ready to get out there and move things forward for our county.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That it is a big step. You tell me more about your career. I know do I have the number right? 36 years?
No. Grief, don't age me like that. 26.
How many years in law enforcement?
No, just over 26 years.
26. Okay.
Yeah.
I had that first number wrong. But I mean, not many things you haven't done in law enforcement besides maybe run for political office. So this is one of the few things left new to you.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky to get some pretty cool experiences under my belt. I started off as a police officer for the city of North Bend down there on the coast, just north of Coos Bay. And while I was down there, I was able to be a canine officer. And then I came up here to Clackamas County August of 1998. And since here, I've been very, very fortunate. I've done everything from a patrol deputy. I've been on our SWAT team. I've been a field training officer. I've been a sergeant. I've been on our traffic team. I was a drug recognition expert, which is really focused on impaired driving. I was a child safety seat inspector. I'm also a leadership and ethics instructor for the state of Oregon. I've worked in our detectives investigations division. I've been in charge of our crime scene investigators. I've been in charge of our computer forensic unit. I've been a patrol sergeant, a FTO sergeant. And then I got what I believe was the best gig of my life was the PIO.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I did that for 3 years, and that's kind of where I got a little interested in politics. I found a niche that I really, really enjoyed personally. I felt I had a lot of success, and I kind of like the idea of getting out and talking with folks and looking them in the eye and kind of breaking down that barrier that is often created with law enforcement agencies in the community.
Yeah.
And it just felt really good. Yeah. And that's kind of when I was like, I could do this.
Yeah.
I really can do this. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not surprising to hear you say that was a gig of your life, because you did a great job with that. We only saw the last really year, I guess, when we started this podcast, but I always felt like you did a really fantastic job. Sort of, it's a tough job. I mean, communications in general, but particularly in law enforcement, I feel like there's sort of two extremes that folks can kind of go, where they, just take things like just absolutely too serious. And a lot of times it is serious stuff, but we'll never loosen the collar a little bit or never joke at all, or kind of go a little too cheesy with it. And I thought that you did a good job when funny things happened or cool things happened. You really just were very kind of the people, I guess, if that makes sense, but it didn't really feel necessarily like this was like government sanitized, when you were talking about it. But then, I remember hearing you talk about, like, for example, the quadruple murder that happened out in the, rural Woodburn, Canby area. And that's obviously not a memory to really revisit, but I mean, just when things were very serious and very somber and just needed the facts, like, you were very good and professional and respectful in that space too. So I think you did a great job in that.
Oh, Tyler, that really means a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And it was a craft that I put my heart and soul into. And you're absolutely right. It was hard to walk that fine line of being cheesy and silly, but yet showing people that, hey, we're human, we're your neighbor too. And we like to have fun. Mm-hmm. There is definitely a time that we are very serious. Like you said, these somber situations, they really kind of tug at your heart. And there's a time to maybe be a little bit lighthearted, and there's definitely a time not to be. And I was lucky enough that I felt like I was able to kind of strike that balance just right.
Yeah.
And and again, I love doing it. Even the bad stuff, even that quadruple homicide down there, which is just, I mean, that was gut wrenching.
Yeah.
But you know, I took that role seriously, and I wanted to get the information out to the community, and you know, knowing that people are watching it that know these folks.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to disrespect them or anything like that. I want to, it's all about timing, and I think I was pretty lucky and being able to kind of figure that out.
Yeah. I think that again, I don't mean to dwell on this case, but in that case particularly, obviously you want to give great respect and treat very carefully the family who's suffering, the loved ones who lost people. But I felt like you did a really good job of explaining something that people often don't think of, is the first responders who, like you said, is very seeing something like that and having to do the stuff that they do. I know there were a lot of officers that had, some stuff to work through, and were leaning on their own support network, officers and EMTs and all the first responders. That's a really, really hard day for them as well.
Yeah, and it was important for me to acknowledge that. They're often forgotten about, especially by just, as a community member, we often forget that, these men and women are going in, they're seeing some things that are hard to deal with, and then they're expected to go right back out there and help somebody with a traffic crash they got into.
Right.
And we're humans, and we have emotions, and this isn't a war zone out here. And when we see things that obviously belong on a war zone in our own backyard, it's shocking.
Yeah.
And we do a really good job of reaching out and taking care of our folks. I think we could do a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's important, and I wanted the community to know it. I wanted the community just to remind them. I think a lot of folks think about it, but in something like that where it was so shocking, that I just didn't want our folks to be forgotten about.
Yeah. And I don't think it's intentional or malicious that people forget. I think we put our first responders kind of on this pedestal, and sometimes just unintentionally think they're, like you said, we forget that they're human. We kind of put them on this superhero pedestal. But like I said, I did appreciate that. Well, let's talk, Lieutenant, obviously about we've been talking about the past. Let's transition into the future a little bit. The sheriff's office has been in the news quite a bit lately. There's obviously, for different things. I don't know if you want to talk specifically about any of them, but the sheriff's office has been a subject of conversation. Do you have any kind of specific ideas or things that you want folks to know about? So things that sort of motivated you to step into this space, and that you think are really important, and that perhaps you could bring some positive change or momentum to?
Yeah, our office is always going to be in the news, right? I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. We're not perfect. Sometimes we make mistakes, but we do a lot of things really, really well. And I spent a long time. I spent, good part of a year kind of debating whether or not this would be the right move for me to throw my hat in the ring and run for sheriff. And as I just started watching things and seeing how things were working internally with our office, I just thought, I think I can do this a little bit better. In fact, I think I can do it a lot better. And the sheriff that we have right now is a fantastic guy. He really is. But we have differences. Our leadership style is different. He's on the cusp of retirement, I'm almost certain. And I want him to be able to go out and enjoy that and know that the office is in good hands. And again, I'm kind of a creative guy, and I have a lot of ideas that are grounded in reality. And I'm really looking forward to really supporting the men and women of our office and helping them, mentoring them, and inspiring them to do the best they can, which is going to translate to a fantastic office for the community. It's something that, I really want the community to be proud of their sheriff, and be proud of each and every member of our office.
Great. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. I mean, I Tyler, it's tough, right? I mean, cops are cops. Sometimes they, it can be a little hectic internally.
Yeah.
But, we have some brilliant minds in our office, and I really want to tap into those minds and come up with some ideas. I mean, as you know, the county is facing a little bit of a belt tightening with our finances right now.
Right.
And so, I think it's time to really take a hard look at ourselves and see where we're allocating our resources, and if that's in the best interest of our current financial standing.
Yeah.
I mean, I, like everybody else, I'd love to have 200 deputies out there patrolling the streets, but that's just not a reality right now.
Yeah.
So we really need to take a hard, honest look at ourselves and figure out where we're putting our resources, and if that's what we want to do to best meet our mission.
Yeah.
And I'm not confident we're there yet, but I know that I can take us there.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing when you start talking about the finances a little bit. We've done some stories from the county's information about, what you call the belt tightening that they're looking at doing for the next fiscal year. That was really just, talking about the county generally and the county general fund. But in a lot of ways, in at least a large way, a lot of that is the sheriff's office, because you guys represent such a large part of that budget. I've seen numbers that suggest around 50% of the general fund goes to the sheriff's office. I don't know if that's accurate.
I think that's a pretty accurate number. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, any talk of belt tightening or really anything to do with the county's budget is about, that a large part of that is directly impacts the sheriff's office in a huge way.
Yeah, it does. And, one of the things I really want to work on, and I'm somewhat fortunate in the sense that I value, and I think I'm pretty good at forming meaningful relationships. And, I really worked on that when I was PIO, and I had a lot of success, and I just enjoy it. And I'm confident that I can make meaningful relationships with the Board of County Commissioners, with our community at large, with our other law enforcement partners. And those relationships will turn into friendships, which will hopefully turn into finances, right? I mean, when we're happy, when we're working together, when folks can see that, hey, these people are working together, they're being fiscally responsible, they're being creative, it will hopefully just kind of bring a sense of ease, and then we can really buckle down and get to work and get our patrol staffing, get our correction staffing up to a level that will help us flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think we forget this sometimes, but at least in my experience, business, politics, like so many things that you don't think about really are a business of relationships, So I think that's... Yeah, cool that you realize that as well. When you talk,
Tyler,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just real quick. Yeah, I mean that is where it all starts for me.
Yeah,
is the relationships. I can't tell. So when I was PIO, that was one of my favorite parts about it is working with. I mean, I reached out to you, to try to get on your podcast, and
right.
I did the same thing with the media, and I really enjoyed it. And I was able to form some pretty good relationships, with the community. And I just, that is really important to me. It's important to me that our sheriff is a part of the community. And when I say a part of the community, I mean out there in the community. And that's what I intend on doing. And I hope I get the opportunity to.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, did you chat with Sheriff Roberts when you were as part of kind of this decision-making process, whether or not to run or?
Sure. Yeah. Of course I did. Before I filed the run, I absolutely went in and sat down and looked eye to eye with Sheriff Roberts, and he was very, very supportive. And I got to tell you, I've talked to Sheriff Roberts countless times. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I went in that office, man, and I could feel myself sweating. I could feel myself shaking in the booth.
Yeah.
And when I walked out of there, we stood up, we shook hands, and it felt like an elephant had just gotten off of my back.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did. He was the professional that he is. I was relieved because I was really worried. I didn't. But no, he said he was supportive, and he was very cordial and professional, which I hope for, and of course he didn't let me down.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good to hear. Politics can be such it's by nature sort of competitive. It can be a nasty game sometimes. It was really nice to hear, a cordial relationship in that sense between two possible opponents, although it sounds like he hasn't quite decided if he's going to run again.
Right, yeah. And that's the thing, right? That's exactly how I'm going to run my campaign. I'm not throwing mud. I'm not going to squeeze this thing up. I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you exactly how I plan on doing it. And I want to tell you, I'm not going to waste my time, and I'm not going to waste your time talking about an opponent. I'm going to tell you what my plan is, because quite frankly, I plan on being a sheriff January 1st.
All right. Well, Lieutenant, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we let you go?
Yeah. Next time, call me Brian, would you?
I'll try, Brian.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. I really appreciate it.
Welcome to the Canby Now Community Board, where you're in charge. That's right, this is where we share your news with our listeners. Everything from birth announcements, birthdays and obituaries, to local events and accomplishments. If you're #CanbyProud, let us celebrate with you. Sawatdee. This is a traditional greeting from Thailand. And there is a really wonderful exchange student from Thailand currently attending Canby High School who really wants to say Sawatdee to you and your family. According to local coordinators for the nonprofit Council on International Educational Exchange, Kritapat, nicknamed Talai, is a 16-year-old boy from Thailand who is in need of a host family for the second semester of the school year. Talai has a kind and generous personality, likes to travel and meet new people, learn new things, and do sports. In his free time, he likes to read, watch movies, and practice Muay Thai. He is a fan of history, military stories and games, movies, and comics. He also likes to study and read stories about politics, business, technology, and world news. Perhaps you or someone you know would like to host Talai until he returns home to Thailand at the end of the school year. There's no time to lose, as Talai needs to find a new host family before the end of the month. If you refer a family that ends up hosting Talai, the Exchange Council will thank you with $100. For questions, please contact Danielle Fletcher at 503-954-4528. For many, adolescence can feel like a delicate balancing act, and some of us handle it better than others. There are neurological changes, new social experiences, and behavioral factors that play a role in adolescent development. Despite the pressures they face, most adolescents make it across the high wire into adulthood without major problems. But some do not. Why do some adolescents show resilience while others develop significant problems? These questions and more will be the subjects of a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, talk hosted by Clackamas Community College from 5 to 6 p.m. February 26. That's right, parents. A college professor is going to explain to you why your preteen's brain is so weird. According to science, what could be better? You'll also learn about the new insights researchers are finding into the way biological and socio-cultural systems impact resilience, as well as the promising avenues for understanding adolescent development. The STEM talk will take place in the Harmony West Community Room on the Milwaukee campus, 7738 Southeast Harmony Road. Guests are invited to a meet and greet at 4:30 p.m. before the discussion begins. The event is free and open to the public. Mark your calendars for the upcoming fundraising dinner by Bridging Cultures next month. It will be held at 6 p.m. March 14 at Zion Mennonite Church in Hubbard. The local nonprofit began 20 years ago by making and handing out bag lunches to neighbors each week in the apartment buildings on Cedar and Locust Street. It's now grown into a diverse organization that has hosted thousands of meals and community events with the goal of building relationships across cultural and economic boundaries. Bridging Cultures invites you to join them for an evening of goodwill, good food, and good company. Supporting the work of Bridging Cultures to build bridges to neighbors, language, technology, legal statuses, and leadership in our community. The event will include a silent auction and raffle, entertainment, and seriously, amazing food. Cost is $40 per person or $160 for a half table. To register, find the link in this story on our website, cambynowpod.com. Tickets are now available for the Daddy-Daughter Dance in March, a fundraiser for the Rotary Club of Canby. The evening will include a chocolate fountain, cupcakes, and other special treats, magical surprises, and wonderful moments for a dad and his daughter or daughters to share. Frankie's daughter is making him go to this because, of course, she is. So, if you're a dad with a special little girl in your life and you want to support the good work of the Canby Rotary, join Frankie for this magical evening. The dance will be from 6 to 9 p.m. Saturday, March 14 at Ackerman Center. Tickets can be purchased on Facebook and Eventbrite. For links, find this story on our website at cambynowpod.com. To get your event, announcement, or community news on the Canby Now Community Board, email us today at info@cambynowpod.com.
Hey, Tyler. So it's February, and you know what that means. There's a certain feeling in the air.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Tax
Valentine.
time.
What? Valentine's?
No, I was saying tax day is coming up for when you file.
Oh. But it's also Valentine's, you know.
Oh, man. I might need to call my wife real quick. I might be in trouble.
Okay, well, if you're looking for some place to have a fun date night, you can always try the Wild Hair Saloon, where Canby goes to eat and have fun. They've been in business for over 16 years, serve a fresh, locally sourced menu, and donate over $20,000 to Canby sports and other causes each year. Check them out just off of Highway 99E next to Space Age in Canby at 1656 Beaver Creek Road in Oregon City, or just go to their website, thewildhairsaloon.net.
Hey, honey. So good news, bad news. Good news, we got our taxes filed early this year.
The Canby Now podcast is produced by me, Tyler Clausen. Our content director and star reporter is Tyler Frankie. We also feature the vocal talents of Joyce Struby and James Walden. So round of applause to them. The song that you're hearing right now is Canby by singer-songwriter Olivia Harms, used with her permission. Find more of her work at olivia13.com.
The Canby Now podcast is dedicated to preserving independent local journalism and redefining local news with our fun, fresh, and energetic brand of storytelling. Our sincere thanks to our local sponsors who make this show possible. Please show your appreciation by supporting the small businesses who support us.
The Canby Now podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios, Canby's locally owned full-service audio, video, and media production company. Our mission is to produce the best content in the universe, and we'd love to help you do it. Find us online at nhtstudios.com.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
I just moved it.
I didn't even ask for it, though.